Hey, this is Tyler Pearce, and I am one of the partners here with ASAPnetwork.org. And this is episode 1 of Aftermarket Online. And this is a podcast that will be aimed to explore the industry and explore the aftermarket industry, e-commerce, and all the nitty-gritty details that go into that, especially data. Talk a little bit about the upcoming changes with ASAP and what our main goal is with ASAP. We're going to have a lot of industry professionals on this podcast and talk with them, about their take. And we're really excited to bring this to you. Our aim is to probably do one of these a month. This is obviously episode 1, so we're going to kind of work through this. But this is, what is ASAP? So the very first one is we're going to have Amanda. And if you know anything about ASAP, you've definitely have chatted with Amanda. Probably more than you wanted to, right?
Hey now.
So I've got Amanda here with me, and we're going to just go through, you may already know a lot about ASAP, but you may not. And so we're going to go just through the entire thing. A dummy's guide to ASAP, and work more into the complicated side towards the end. Kind of walk you through this. So I really hope you enjoy. I hope you stick around. I hope that we can keep on doing this. And maybe you, listening there, could probably be a guest on here at one point. So, let's get right into this. Amanda, say hello.
Hello.
So, as someone who knows very little, all right, I just got a website up. I want to sell parts online. I heard someone say something about this ASAP. What is it? What is ASAP?
Well, ASAP is let me go back to the history first. We are web developers. That was what we were doing before we got contacted several years back by an aftermarket manufacturer who said, hey, can you build some websites for our dealers? And we didn't know anything about the industry back then. We just thought it was straight e-commerce. We spent the next 2 years struggling heavily in trying to complete these projects from every aspect, including the manufacturers not having their data and the other data providers that weren't providing e-commerce focused data. So it was very frustrating in the beginning because we didn't understand. What do you mean it's aces and pies? What do you mean you don't have, right? It was, from a developer standpoint, this was unacceptable, and we hadn't seen this in any other industry. So after a couple of years, we had to sit down and you remember this conversation, either we stop doing websites for this industry or we go all in and we fix the industry. So in a nutshell, yes, it's data distribution. But it's data distribution, and data, of course, is what you have to have if you're going to carry a line on your website. Data includes images and titles and descriptions and weights and dimensions and attributes, whether, the finishes and whatnot. These are all things that consumers online need and every single platform out there needs. But they're never consistent because the manufacturers were never educated properly. It's not their fault. But anyway, so we built ASAP based on a couple years of every single thing we ran into that cost us time, that was confusing, and we've kind of rolled it all into one. So ASAP is where manufacturers who really are committed to their dealers' success online, we take their data and we make it, we optimize it for e-commerce, and then we deliver that data to their dealers and distributors so they can stay up to date and sell more parts online. That's it in a nutshell.
And I know that you kind of sort of touched on it, but so this might be a stupid question. What is data? I mean, what does data look like? Is it a spreadsheet? Is it a Word document? Is it an app I download on my phone? What is data? I don't understand.
That's a really good question, actually, because I think we have some vocabulary issues in the industry. And so data to one person may mean they think it's their price list. And I think what had happened was in the 30 years before the internet, manufacturers needed catalogs. And then PDFs came around, they went, oh, good God, we don't have to do these heavy catalogs. We can do these PDFs. And that was a better way when they could email those to dealers. And that was a new concept. And so it kind of tried to look like a PDF, like a catalog. Then you got e-commerce going on, and they need a different type of database for their e-commerce platforms. And so manufacturers went, oh, well, let me make this PDF kind of look, let me make an Excel sheet or make a CSV for you to load, but I want it to look like the PDF, because they're not data people. If they were data people, they'd be doing data. They're not. This industry is crazy that almost exclusively these manufacturers were enthusiasts, right? They weren't businessmen on Wall Street typically that said, this is a lot of money in here, I want to do it. These guys were passionate about this. And so that's great. That's where their skill was, but their skill set was not e-commerce, and still is not, for the most part, e-commerce. So when I get a data sheet sent over and it's a PDF, that's unacceptable. When they insert images into it, there's just certain rules that a website platform says you can't have, and I have to clean it up if you give it to me that way. So data is usually an Excel, right? A CSV Excel sheet, and it has certain columns in there that feed into a website, and that website spits out the product display. So one of the other issues is, and I'm dealing with this right now, is I am going in and stripping a lot of this code. So there's a big difference between what you write in an email or what you write on a PDF when you put the inch symbol or the % sign or a trademark or a dash. You read it and you can understand it. But when it gets put onto a website, Excel, unfortunately, will change things. And it will just put another character in, because it is turning it into code. And code has certain things that a % sign means something when you're coding that it doesn't mean when you're reading. And so the cleaning up of that, and that's why you see a lot of times you'll see a title on a website or a description that says something, and then there's an A with a a funny symbol on top, or a question mark behind a bunch of stuff. Well, that was because, unfortunately, Excel, which really isn't the greatest thing for databases. It really isn't. It wasn't made for this, but we use it for this. OpenOffice Calc is a little bit better for that. But anyway, you have to structure that differently for inserting on a website than you do for giving to a printer for a catalog, right? And so it just takes time to strip that stuff out. And it's not pretty. It doesn't have pictures. But
so let me ask, I guess, kind of another stupid question is, do all dealers with websites that are trying to sell, or people that are selling online, are all websites, do they just have a button that says put data here?
Oh, no.
I mean, so when someone is loading this data in, you're making it sound like it's just very, you just click this button or you upload this one file. But would someone have to sit there and look on one screen and see their Excel and manually put in field by field to create a product? Or what is that process?
So there's a ton of shopping carts, right? And it depends on what you did. If you had someone custom build your site straight from PHP from the ground up, and a lot of folks do, they have a programmer who programmed and got it ready. Most people are using some type of e-commerce platform, Xcart, 3D Cart, Magento, WooCommerce. We develop in Drupal. But the issue there is the automotive industry is a different animal than what these e-commerce platforms were made for. That's why we've done so much customization on the back of ours, because you remember that e-commerce is only a couple decades old. We're babies in this, right? And for the first 10 years, it was just nobody knew what they were doing, right? And I mean, nobody. But so these platforms came out, and they came out for e-commerce for shirts and shoes and jewelry, and they have never been created for the aftermarket industry. And here's the deal. When you're a shoe, you come in this size and this color. You don't come in a different size if it was before 1979, or if your left foot is bigger than your right foot. So there's a lot of different stuff when a consumer's shopping for aftermarket parts, for these filters and facets that need to go into it. And you're absolutely right. There's a lot of platforms out there that can't even load websites. You have to do it one by one, because it's a good business model for like the Wix and the Weebly's and the GoDaddy free sites. That is a phenomenal business model for them. It's free or very inexpensive, so it's like a vehicle. You want a base Ranger, here it is. If you want anything else, you're going to have to pay for it. And because so many people have never really experienced what a true e-commerce website can do for them, they give no value to the cost of a website, right? I've seen manufacturers pay $250,000 for websites. That's crazy. Did an island come with that? Did you get a fleet of Nubian, love gods? I don't know. But the ones that don't and expect their websites to work, they're never going to get it. Search engines have come a long way. And I've gone way off topic. Let me get back to what you asked me. No, there is not one button, but there is a concept, right? And so the information that we provide is information that every one of those platforms are going to ask for. Every one of those platforms is going to call it something different in their fields. On ours, we can map, and we can say, I could say, here, this field cat, I'm going to map it to SKU. Other websites, they go, you have to use their template. So as long as it's consistent, you know that when I say SKU, your website is part ID or part number, or, they call it different things, but that what's in there is consistently required to be in there. So no, there is no magic here, but there is consistency, and you can understand it. That's why I do the videos on how to prep and map.
So if anyone's ever spoken to you for any length of time, it sounds like that ASAP is absolutely 100% the solution, and that the industry is in shambles. But how did it work before? I've bought parts online 5 years ago, and I can now buy parts online today.
Sure.
So as a end user, it would be hard to pick out a certain point in time and say, oh, well, it didn't work then, and now it works now. It seems that you've been able to buy parts online for as long as you can remember, as long as there has been websites. So how did this work 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and why is there such a need for a change? What happened, or what is happening that is causing ASAP to need to step in?
Okay, that's a really good question. So, right now, I could have a manufacturer send me an email with his part numbers, tell me to go over to his website and pull the images I need. I can hand put in one part at a time, and that was what a lot of people were doing. They were going to their website and crawling it and taking their descriptions and building them one at a time. And if you have a decent back end, building a part from start to finish on adding one with the descriptions and titles and maybe even fitment, depends on the website. Maybe it took you 3 to 5 minutes to add a part. Now you have 4,000 parts. It's a lot of time. So the big boys, they have the budgets. They have 48, 50 people in a department. They know what they're doing. They can do that. The smaller to mid-sized people, that's what they were doing, Tyler, is they were adding them one by one and hoping they were getting the right information. And as time has gone on, 10 years ago, the consumer, you had a lot more tolerance than you do right now. The technology wasn't there. They would move a lot of big information on what they would call an iframe. So you've seen maybe on your Facebook that they go, hey, you can put a link here and it will show your website. But they never leave Facebook, but they can see your website through a portal. They can see it through a window. That's an iframe. So for about 5 minutes in the overall scope of history here, iframe was something that was being used to get a bunch of information from me to show up on your site. What has happened though is it is not good. You don't have any control. That is just a window. You're not really there and you can't change it. And if you do, it just gets pushed back because there's a central location that's controlling that. The search engines, which are critical to crawl your website, and that's where all that code comes in, if they see an iframe, they see a title, they see a URL, they see nothing on the page on that URL because there is nothing on that page. It is a window to someone else's page. So they were doing that, but it was never easy. It was never easy. And that's what we're trying to do is, as web developers, this. Our time is critical. And so if you gave me even 200 parts and I had to put them in one by one because you gave them to me on multiple tabs at the bottom or on multiple different sheets and this is how they came over. Here's our image zip file and the images are titled 17.5 Sunday and you got to kind of figure out what part number that goes with. You could put those together. What happens is you put 5 of them and you call it a day and you just tell people, oh no, I sell them. And if they want them, they'll call me. But that's changed, right? They don't call. They just hit the back button, right? And they go find it someplace else. So the time people have to devote to that has changed. Their willingness to devote the time has changed. And that's why ASA...
Wouldn't you say that maybe not necessarily it's the time, it's like you said, so there was huge companies, right? So there was maybe 10 years ago, you had AutoZone or whatever online, and you had these huge mega companies, and so they had much more resources to do this one by one and then update, right? Each year you're gonna have to update all that stuff, which is kind of crazy. But now you have all of these, not necessarily mom and pop shops, but you have these people that just have, I just want to make this one specific part for a Jeep or whatever, and I want to sell that online. And this one person who possibly sometimes even has a day job, right, does taxes for a living, then that's where the problems really arise, because this one person is just not...
You're just opening up a bunch of questions in that, and yeah, you're right. So let's just step back to the AutoZones for a second. And let's step back to the mom and pops. Again, this entire industry is built on, I can do that better, right? Because it's all built on passion, right? And so you see, there's over 5,000 aftermarket manufacturers, and they come and go, right? But they are the people who came in to the original manufacturer's parts. They drove the trucks, the Jeeps, the Mustangs, and they said, I want my vehicle to be better. But they don't offer that. And so there's the OE, right, the official manufacturer's parts, and that's what I'm going to talk about AutoZone and places like that with. And then there's the aftermarket parts. And so these guys went, I made a gadget that you can put on your car too, and people went, I love it. And they went, oh my God, they love it, and I'm going to sell it to them. But they weren't Ford. They didn't have that infrastructure. And so it was very difficult for them. And again, they made a great part, and they grew, and then they hired people who didn't know how to answer that question either. So the industry kind of went, what are you doing? Okay, well, what if we do? Okay, well, because nobody, including us, 10 years ago, that's a million years in the internet, right? Things were completely different. The technology that we'll have 10 years from now, they'll go, what were those crazy monkeys doing back there with these websites? How dare them have even existed, right? I mean, we're gonna look back and go, wow, was that crazy? But there is an industry standard, right? It's called Aces and Pies. And I heard that being shoved down my throat for the first 2 years until I really went, what is this? What is Aces and Pies? And why you keep telling me this like it is some shield against, sunburn? So the deal is that I think it was AutoZone about 30 years ago, the auto parts manufacturers created a system. Aces is for pretty much the application, right? What does it fit? And Pies is for the part information, the titles, the pricing, the descriptions, the weights, the dimensions, right? But again, 30 years ago, it started before anyone ever said AOL or, floppy disk or any of that stuff, right? So it wasn't created in any way, shape, or form to accommodate e-commerce. It was created, well, you remember what computers look like, right? AutoZone probably had this monster thing sitting in there, and it was created to feed them information in a consistent basis because it must be consistent. You need to have standards. And I will go more into this maybe today, maybe later. The aftermarket industry came around, and they piggybacked on the manufacturer's standards for a system that was created for non-e-commerce. So what I say by that is there are some rules for pies, for example. True pies, you can only have certain character count. So a title can only be X amount of characters. It's great. It's enough for a catalog. It's enough for one man standing behind an AutoZone counter and saying to the woman, what's your car? And I'm going to look it up. So it's fine for him because he's fully trained. You take that and put it out on the internet and go, here is 70 parts that say air filter. Because one of the rules is you must not and cannot have any words in that title that have anything to do with color, application, position, material. That's everything you need online, right? So it says you can't. And so when I would get data from some of these other data sources in the beginning, and there was an air filter data sheet I got, I just sat back and went, what am I going to tell my client? Because I'm going to load up 125 parts on here and the title's the same on each one of them. That can't be, right? And so
it'd be like going to a website and then you type in K&N air filter. I want to get one of these, and instead of any there might be a description, but if you're just looking at maybe the thumbnails of them, right, on like a general overall page, it's just going to say air filter, air filter, air filter, air filter.
Correct. And I don't really want to bring up that because I think K&N's an awesome brand and one day would like to have them on ASAP. But let's take it to something everyone can understand. You go on to a website to buy a shirt, and you go to their category tree and you go shirts. And they bring up, usually on a front page of a website, there's 12 displays. And every one of them says shirt. And you have to click on it. You can see a picture. Maybe the picture is showing you it's pink, and maybe that means it's pink. And a price. But every one of them says shirt. So you got to go in. What size shirt is it? What color shirt is it? Is it a V-neck? What is this, right? They're not going to do that. That is a crazy way to shop for something. So the titles not only help the consumer understand because they don't have any patience. They want to go, this is what I was looking for. That looks like it is because you gave them, I was looking for a black one, or I was looking for an aluminum one, or I was looking for whatever. If you can get that into the title and it helps them go, that's the one I'm going to click on, because it's not just our time people just don't have time. I don't have time. Oh, this is a great example. I want to get one of those Amazon Alexas, right? Alexa, tell me if I have butter in there. I want to get one. So I was looking to compare it to Google Home yesterday online. And I went in and they had a video. It was funny. They had zero description to tell me why it was better. It didn't give me any bullet points. Didn't tell me. The video was on how it looked. And it was a 7-minute complete crap video. And I went, you want me to spend $129, but you didn't tell me anywhere on this page the features, what it does, what it doesn't do, why it's better than something else. And again, that's their data, right? And so you know what? Had your data been better, you're $129. I'm going to buy an Alexa for $189, but I'm going to buy the Alexa because it told me exactly what it did, and you didn't. So that is data.
Isn't the common or the current exception is you use that data as a starting point, and then you as a trained professional and owner of this website go in and tailor each one of those products. So you use the base. This is a air filter. Now I go in and I put those bullet points. I put the description.
No, those need to come from the manufacturers. Again, if it even took you just 2 minutes, which it doesn't, to really look at each one of those parts and decide how a consumer is going to find it, you're just never going to get done, right? You're never going to do anything but that. And a lot of people don't have a web person that's their full-time job anyway. The manufacturer needs to understand, they need to say in their descriptions and their bullet points, which is one thing that Pies doesn't allow, no HTML, right? Well, HTML, what is HTML? That's what makes the description so pretty, right? And so some websites were built, customized to take those bullet points in a separate column. And so you'll talk to someone who spent a lot of money on their website because it was custom made, and so the description goes here and the bullet points go there, and they code it so it comes in together, and that's great and wonderful. But 95% of the people out there didn't go that direction because that's very expensive, and you really got to have a good plan. So you need those bullet points to show up, but again, it's not like just copying and pasting. It's code. When you see a picture, when you see anything online, there's code behind it, and there's bots that crawl that code so they understand what it is. When you see an image, the bot doesn't see the image. It recognizes there's an image there, but it could be of a cat. It could be of a hot dog. They don't have eyes. They don't have artificial intelligence. So if you're waiting for the dealer to do that, it doesn't get done, and it shouldn't have to, right? These people who sell the Google Home, they should not have to have done the research to find out why it's better than Alexa.
So give me the range here, or the discrepancy between price-wise of someone who says, well, Amazon does it, eBay does it, I've seen other websites, they look fine, I don't see problems on their massively huge, super successful Zappos, right, who's here in Nevada, we saw their thing. They do it just fine. I don't ever hear any problems about them having any data issues. Why can't I have what they have?
Oh yeah, I hear it all the time. Web development is kind of, and understand, I did 10 years in the car business, so I'm not, but it's kind of like the car business before Monroney stickers, before MSRP. Web development is really kind of still the Wild West. Everybody's a web developer, right? Or their cousin or their brother or their sister. And so because there is no standards in it, and everyone charges different, there's all these different platforms, and there's different things. A site cost for someone who's going to sell flowers, completely different, because if they have their data, right? But if the data is not consistent, we're the only industry that really has inconsistent data. No one has ever worked together in this. So when we have our clients and they go, hey, how come my site doesn't do that like Amazon? Well, because Amazon is billions of dollars into their technology. You had a $2,000 budget, right? But it's very hard because they don't, and you and I have even talked about this. A client will say, hey, can I do this on my site? Yeah, refresh your page, it's done. Oh, awesome. So they don't have any concept of, and then they go, well, why can't I do that? Well, because that is going to cost you $800. Why? You did that one. They don't know what goes, they don't know what happens. They don't understand how anything moves and works with, once that changes, what the dependencies, they don't understand their own websites. And they shouldn't really need to. And maybe in a decade, maybe we'll have artificial intelligent web designers, right? Maybe I'll go, Alexa, build the website for this client and have it to me in 5 minutes. Maybe that'll happen, but it doesn't happen right now. And so, again, without getting off track, I'm so sorry.
It's all right. So, okay, if someone sees, and this is a common thing that we deal with, but so give me the reason why someone can't have this. I want them to be able to click off-road or road or UTV and search by that. Or I want to search by, when they see, I want lifted trucks or non-lifted trucks, only search by this.
Right. On their website.
Why can't someone have this thing that you've seen? I feel like I've seen that everywhere. It seems very easy to do.
Data.
Filter by car, filter by truck.
Data. So one of the things that we're doing on ASAP, and I should have thought about this in the very beginning because I have to go back in and do it to all the brands, but from everything from this point on, I have created a field for vehicle type because you're right. How many clients have we had that said, oh, I want them to be able to shop by Jeep, shop by truck, shop by ATV. Awesome. Unless that data sheet comes over and says, I am Jeep, I am truck, I am ATV, but it's in the title. Okay, it is. But you can't parse out of a title. It's not how a website works. A website doesn't go, oh yeah, honey, I know that's a Jeep, and I know that's a Wrangler over. It's not artificial intelligence. It must be in a column on a data sheet. If it's not in a column on a data sheet, you cannot build a website. You can, if you go back into every one of those parts and you manually assign it. But that's just not how that technology works. So I am putting 2 new fields, and I almost thought about the gas fuel thing because I know some people want to go shop by gas, shop by diesel. But sometimes I struggle just getting the basics from the manufacturers. A lot of them don't give us any fitment. And so it's hard enough for me to go into ACES, and I do use ACES very much, to determine that, hey, you said this fits this year, make, model with this designation. Maybe it was a 4-door, maybe it was a certain engine type. And I'm saying that manufacturer said that never existed. So on top of that, I'm going to have to ask the manufacturer, please let me know if it's gas or diesel. And it's just a work in progress. But I do have, whether it's a Jeep, a truck. So some of the dealers on ASAP, for example, they just are Jeep. I don't want any data that's not Jeep. And sometimes they'll have a brand and it's all Jeep. But sometimes a brand will go, I have Jeep and I have Toyota and I have Suzuki. And so by giving them that Jeep, truck, SUV, they can sort their data sheet and get rid of anything that's not Jeep. But without that on there, they would have to manually look at each one of those part titles and do it. I also have separated out Jeep model. And I'm going to go into this, and maybe we'll go into this more later. There's an issue with ACES and Jeep. There's an issue with Jeep that doesn't happen in a lot of the other makes. Jeep owners know they have a YJ or a TJ or a JK, but that's not a model. We're like a Silverado 1500, that's a make, a model and a submodel, and you have your trims after that. On Jeep, it's a Wrangler, and there's still models. There's the Sahara and the SE and the Sport and whatnot. But the YJ, the JK, the TJ, those things, they're body codes. And the current standards for the industry in ACES does not pull that out. So what happens, and I've talked with, God, am I able to say anyone else's name? I'm not gonna. I've talked with some other data providers about this issue. One of them, who's very big and well known, and been around for a long time, nailed it. What they did was call out in their fitment Wrangler YJ, because a consumer that has a Wrangler wants to see it's a YJ, right? They're looking for that. Another data provider who is going straight standards, ACES standards, doesn't. So when I go to some of the big boy sites, right, and I go, okay, I'm going to go year, make, and model on your site because I'm just curious. Under Wrangler, they'll go, here's your choices, Wrangler or Wrangler YJ. And I can tell immediately you're using ACES and you're using this other data provider's data. And here's the issue. those YJ owners are only going to click that YJ because it resonates with them, right? I'm so sorry. I ramble on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right. So, for one, I just kind of like while you were rambling, if say you had 5,000 parts, and you wanted to go in and classify each one as a UTV, truck, Jeep, whatever, say that was 2 minutes per part, it's like 160 hours of work. And so if you pay someone minimum wage or $10 an hour, I mean, that's a good amount of money, just to classify that on what is currently on your site. So that's not even talking about what you bring on monthly or yearly or that ongoing thing. So I mean, if it doesn't come from the manufacturer, it doesn't come from top down, and you have to put it in, if you just assume that that's just one field that you're having to edit.
Right.
But so, okay, you keep using the word ACES. Pies has the restrictions. Pies has the title, character, rules.
Yes.
Can't have HTML.
Yes.
So that is what you seem to be running up against for e-commerce. But you said yourself you use ACES. So what is
I use ACES because it's the only validation of fitment. So when I say fitment so I'll have a part type, and some of it's easy, right? It's like I'm a Wrangler YJ from this year to that year. Easy. Some of them have, I only fit this year, make, and model with a 6-foot bed. Well, I have an issue with that as well, because in ACES they don't say 6 foot, 7 foot, 5 foot, right? And that could be for another bed size, could be for another talk. But I have to go in, and so I'll look at what the manufacturer told me, and I'll say, well, you said this part fits this year to that year for this 1500 Silverado with this bed size. And I'm telling you that Silverado, Chevy, said they never had that bed size in that model. They had it in this model. And so I have to use that. If I didn't validate against ACES, I'm just saying what the manufacturer said. And what I've discovered working with these manufacturers is when I'm a little brash sometimes, but I ask them, were you drunk when you did this? Were you just guessing at year ranges? And every one of them almost exclusively did not start that process. That process was started way back when and just continued. So they went, well, it's always said that, right? And so they assumed it was true. So ACES are a really good tool for me. It's the only tool. I can't imagine using anything else for that. But for pies, was never created for the aftermarket industry. It was never created for online. And so it doesn't work. Now, a lot of people in the industry go, well, it's ACES and pies, and you must be standard. Okay, go. And watch how many more parts you don't sell because you're using something that is anti-internet. I have tried for years before we did this, Tyler, to get the other data companies to accept this. And it is, man, it's almost like the king's new clothes out there. It's weird. So I come in, and I'm a woman, right? And unfortunately, this is a good old boys club, and always has been. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. But I'm from the web development standpoint, right? So I never was there when it started. And I tell them, hey, this doesn't work. It's not received well, right?
But can't you can understand that when you say it doesn't work, and someone has literally, since you said it doesn't work, have already sold 4 or 5 parts or gained new dealers. It's hard to say, well, it's not that it doesn't work, because it does. I'm currently doing business.
Sure. And you're right. And the thing is that when you give a true pies file to someone, if their system has been set up for that, like a lot of the big boys have been, they're not using those pies files. They are collecting them, and then they've got 48 people who then go in and know what to do. So from my aspect, the big boys and the small boys, right? The ones that have big teams and the ones that have no teams. And when I talk to the manufacturers, a lot of manufacturers are like, well, we do a lot of business with X, and they've got to, you do, because they both have wholesale departments. And so you get that big purchase order coming in. It's not just what they sold on their websites. It might have been 1 from this guy and 6 from that guy. And all these little boys and girls play into that. If they do not have 48 people to work on that, right? They need that clean data. They need it to be easy and consistent. And it helps everybody up. So instead of some things have to trickle down, but other things are trickling back up, right? And so
right, because so if someone if just Joe Smith wants to get online and sell parts in Alaska, if he's expected to work off pies, and he doesn't have a 40-man crew, and he's going to have to invest thousands of hours, right, essentially over the year to massage this data, because he couldn't buy a system that takes pies, even if that was possible. But so then the dealer who has spent so much money, or the manufacturer has spent so much money creating this product, promoting this product, wanting someone else to sell their product for them, and then provides them with no data, essentially, or data that can't, that person just probably not going to put them on their website. They're going to look for someone else that's easier, or else they're just going to spend.
They're going to put something, and they're going to ignore the pies file in most cases and go to that manufacturer's website, and they just grab their picture and they copy and paste their images and their descriptions, and they might use that file for their pricing. And I've seen it too much, right? And so it's not fair for them. It's not fair for the manufacturers. But the manufacturers, again, king's new clothes. You must have aces and pies. It's the industry standard. I want to be very clear, and I don't care. This industry has no standards for e-commerce. Period. Can it? Yes. Should it? Oh, yes. I am trying to create some standards, but nobody wants to play ball. Here's a weird thing about this industry. Hey, I need a category tree, man, because categories are big, right? I do a lot of, this is how you're going to rank, and this is how people are searching. Hey, share your category tree. I'll build the new standards off your Oh, no, it's ours. Well, wait, you share your category. No, we got a good one, but we're not going to give it to you. And I've tried to explain to these guys that when you give your data to this dealer and you say, here's bumpers, and you give your data to this guy, another brand gives him, and he says, we're going to call ours bumper. What you just asked that guy to do with just 2 data sheets is go in and check everything and make sure it only has, you don't want bumpers and bumper on your website. So these guys have to take this guy's category tree and this guy's category tree, and they have to sit down and figure out, do they already have it on their website, and are they calling it something different? Wow. Again, even at 5 parts, it's a pain in the butt. But when you've got 18,000 parts and you're trying to put them on and you already have an established tree, there needed to be some consistency. Can that go down further? Oh, yeah. But again, that's a big issue, and nobody wants to, everyone thinks it's proprietary to them. Vaughn's, Piggly Wiggly, Safeway, they all have milk in the dairy section. You know, no matter what state you're in, no matter what time of the day you're in, when you walk into one of those any grocery store in the country and you want milk, you're going to the dairy section. This industry's kind of weird. You're like, well, he has it in dairy. I'm going to put it over here in cake because they always need milk when they go and eat cake. Well, that's kind of stupid. Nope, because that'll give us the edge. We'll get all the cake people and they'll have, what? Right? I don't understand. But it's a weird thing. Well, but okay, and who am I to tell them to change?
But so then, explain this. I have an electrical wire that connects the transmission. Is that driveline? Is that electrical? Is that... when you have this part that sort of blends between two,
Right.
what do you do with that?
I ask the manufacturers, again, it's one of my biggest struggles. And I'm terrified to tell you the truth that I have put some parts in the wrong places. I depend on people to say, Amanda, you're stupid. You put this here, but it really needs to be there. Great. I'm learning a whole lot about the industry, but I am a web developer, right? When our first website, and they're like, we sell gussets. Oh, those things I put around my waist, right? I know a whole lot about Jeep now because I am knee deep in it from 4 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the afternoon. But I need the manufacturers to help me, but they don't know. One prime example is God, how do I say this without... So we had a manufacturer, and we were working on their website and their data, and they had it, one of their parts, they had it in a certain category. And I said, okay, what is this, right? And they said, well, it's that. And I said, okay, is it the same? Is that and this the same? Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. 40 people a month are searching for the term you're calling it. 27,000 people a month are searching for it in its other term. So if you're telling me that this is the same part, let's not call it what you're calling it right now, because unless you're afraid of losing those 40 people. And this manufacturer said, Amanda, no one ever told us that. We didn't know, right? If we had known, we would have been able to do something. And again, I don't know, but I know how to find the answers, right? And that's what I do when I sit down with a manufacturer and go, hey, you have this, you have it under corner armor, or and I'm going to tell you that this many people are searching that, but this many people are searching corner guards. So please explain, is this a corner guard? Yes. Let's call it a corner guard instead of that, which no one's searching for. But they build parts. They don't know.
So it'd be going back to your analogy of like a grocery store. They have a big sign that says long, crunchy sourdough loaf. No one would know. I don't really understand what that is, but if they had said French bread,
right,
that's kind of...
That's exactly what I'm talking about, right? People always, I look at their keywords on their websites, and they've spent, which by the way, Google doesn't use your keywords anymore. Stop spending your time on them. But it's funny. They'll spend all this time on their keywords, and they'll be like 18 keywords, and they'll say Ford, Dodge, Jeep, bumper, axle, and because they just weren't told, right? And so that no one's searching that way. You have to say what they're searching for. And a lot of these manufacturers, they have their own slang, right? And they go, oh, let's call it this. But consumers are not looking for that. So they're going to have to, hear about you someplace else. How are you going to gain the attention from the search engines if you went on and said, I'm looking for aspirin, but the manufacturer of the aspirin called it by its name, its real pharmaceutical name? It ain't going to come up because it doesn't have the word aspirin. Right? If you're looking for hot dog, why am I not ranking for hot dogs? I got them on my website. Because you didn't say it was a hot dog. You said it was a crushed up meat in a bag where you fry it over fire with, you didn't say the right words.
Okay, so the title of this episode was What is ASAP? And you sort of briefly kind of went over it in the very beginning. But we got to kind of... And then we sort of went on a tangent about maybe the industry. But we want to get back to what is... First of all, what does ASAP stand for? And is it ASAP or is it ASAP?
All right, well, ASAP stands for Advanced Solutions for Aftermarket Products. And you can call it ASAP if you want to, or ASAP, it doesn't matter. It still stands for Advanced Solutions for Aftermarket Products. And so in a nutshell... And it's a nutshell, manufacturers come to us now because their dealers are asking them to, and we help them prep their data in a way it's never been done before, so that it works better online. What
is before you go on a tangent? What is prepping?
So I look through every line of their titles, all their descriptions. I validate fitment, right? So I give them fitment. I make sure their columns are there for attributes, material, location, things that dealers need to be able to use for filters on their websites. I usually rename all their titles, so again, search engines and consumers are looking for what they're selling. So we prep it with our HTML and all that. We remove the inch sign, we remove the percent sign, all the stuff that causes it to look like junk on a website. And I take all that and I put it on ASAP for dealers and distributors. They can come. So it's kind of like a big trade show in the front, right? They can go to one site and they can go, I want to see this guy's parts, or I want to see who you have as a manufacturer for these parts. So they can see it either way, and they only have to go one place. So they're shopping for who they want to sell online. And they don't have to go to a million different websites and try and figure it out. They click a button. They get clean data. They can have it a couple different ways. I've got lots of videos on how to show them what the way to do it. The manufacturer clicks a button, and they are ready to go and online and sell their parts. This is free for them.
What is the manufacturer clicking?
An approval button, right? So
someone wants to sell worn winches, and they come on, and before they can do that, the manufacturer, Warren, has to approve them in some fashion.
Yes.
And so, give me really quickly the two different experiences, because you have two fully different experiences. You have dealers, the people that are receiving the data, and then the manufacturers who are providing the data. So I'm a dealer. I have a website. I want to put Rock Crawler on my website. I don't have Rock Crawler on my website.
So you go on to ASAP, you have an account, you go into Rock Crawler in the branch, request their data. They get an email, they see who you are, they determine if they want you to sell their data, they approve you at the pricing level, whatever they discern, or if you buy through a manufacturer or through a distributor, you get MAP and retail, because then the manufacturer's not determining price, but whatever. They click a button and you get the data, and it's sitting there for you. And then when you get updates, we update that and send you an email, and you can request to only see the things that got changed. So from a dealer standpoint, it just saved you a ton of time. You don't have to email anyone. You don't have to call them. He's not out traveling for a week. He's not at lunch. At any point in time, you can go back onto your account and get an updated data sheet. The approval's always there. You can re-download. You can get images whatever way you want.
And that's like a monthly subscription?
No, it's free for them. The dealers and distributors, everyone that's getting this data, because I was the one that wanted the data, right? Remember, I've tried to overcome everything I had dealt with when we first started building websites for this industry. I couldn't believe that you would think that I should have to pay to access data that I'm selling for you, right? That's just freaking crazy. And so never will a dealer or a distributor ever pay a dime. And not only should they not have to pay a dime, but they should be helped on e-commerce. That's why we do the videos, right? Here's how e-commerce works. Here's what you can do on your website. Here's, information on shipping companies and when should you go direct and when is being a distributor better. I have strong opinions on that. They need to understand it. And so from a dealer standpoint, they can do this at 6:00 at night instead of waiting for the guy to get back from vacation, right? When they have time. So they click a button, boom, you've got the data.
So without going obviously too much into, the financials, a question probably that just is always looming, and we heard a lot at SEMA. How are you making money then? Because what it sounds like is the dealers are your main customer, and they are coming to your website. They're loving it. They're using up ASAP in all of its glory, but don't pay you anything. So there's no ads on the site. How does it doesn't make sense? What's the catch?
Okay. So my goal, there's 5,400 manufacturers. My goal is to get 30% of those. A lot of times, Tyler, we'll have a manufacturer who will update their data once a year, right? They pay a fee, they pay a setup fee, they pay something very reasonable per month, and we don't have to touch them very often. I don't think it's fair that, and then I struggle with this as well. I don't think it's fair, though, that you should have to pay me X amount a month, whether I do anything to your data or not. Why is that fair? Would I want that? No. So, it will go off of volume, and it also feeds my web development company. To be honest, we get websites out of it. I support ASAP financially. It's still a baby, right? And so once we have the entire community on there, then it will start to pay for itself. I'm not looking to make a killing off 200 people. I'm just looking to get a little bit, enough that it will pay for servers and pay for all the stuff. Everyone should have a win-win feeling when they leave ASAP. The dealers should have a win-win. The manufacturers should have a win-win. It doesn't have to be the way it is, or it's been.
So then the manufacturers are the ones that are, because obviously having access to that many dealers and the dealers using their clean data, sounds like a win-win. But so give me the experience of a manufacturer. A dealer comes on, makes an account, clicks a button, they get approved. They can use it all time of the day. Simple. It must be more complicated than for a manufacturer's experience.
Sure. Well, it's not more complicated, but it certainly is more time consuming, right? So I typically ask them to send me what they would right now that they would send a dealer. And you would just drop your jaw if you saw what sometimes that is, right? And we've had to build entire data sheets from nothing but a price sheet. And a price, anyway, whatever. So I do all the heavy lifting, though, myself and the guys on this side. We go through and we scrape and we check and we double check and we check again. We validate everything. So they pretty much hand it to us. When I'm almost done, I go back and I go, here's the holes. What are we missing? And again, I have standards, no image, no part, right? That seems to bother some of the manufacturers. But how many websites did I put up with no images? I won't do it. You won't sell the part. You've just pissed off your dealer. You wasted my time, right? If you want to sell that part, go out with your phone and take a picture of it, right? No one's going to buy anything. I wouldn't even spend $20 on something with no picture. I want to see a picture. Anyway, whatever. So we do all that. We have a portal for them. I show them everything. It's not really, it's longer time to get it done. But once it's done and it's structured well, we just need to maintain it. And I maintain that for them. So they don't have to have that internal person. And it's not that some of them don't have great internal people, Tyler. There are some really sharp data guys I've come in contact with. But most of them hate it. And when I ask, hey, how long did it take you to fill that pie sheet out? 3 months. How accurate is it? I don't know, I guessed. Right. Why don't you give it to me? I'm not going to guess. I'm going to look at everything and I'm going to correct it for you. But a lot of these manufacturers, again, never saw any value to their data because no one could use it. So they don't want to pay a setup fee. And so it is a growth thing, Ty. It's a growth thing. As we grow and as we educate everybody and as everyone finds out it's okay that they were not the only ones that it didn't work for, right? You weren't the only ones. Don't feel stupid.
All right, so then without going into, we don't want to, maybe a slightly touchy subject, but are there other people that do this same thing? How has there been such a glaring issue, at least from your point of view, and not really any solutions, or have there been solutions, half solutions?
I don't know the answer to that. Is there other people doing it? Yes, several, which of course I'm not going to name, that have been doing it for a long time. And some of them do a really good job, right? But they pretty much, I believe, have all done Aces and Pies standards. Again, I'm not focused on that catalog. I'm focused where my wheelhouse is, which is e-commerce. And so all I can attest to is what doesn't work online, and Pies doesn't work online, right? And so maybe I would love it to get another data company on the podcast. I have asked people for years, tell me why I'm wrong. I'm not, my ego's not here. You tell me why I'm wrong on that, and I will change my mind. But since I'm the one who has to use your data, right? Data is our part, right? So you're saying, and if it was that case, and I was trying to put a wheel on a truck, and I'm like, hey, this wheel works great when it's in the field, but as soon as I take it to 55 miles an hour, it breaks apart because it was never made to go 55 miles an hour. So is that wheel that was made for this good? Absolutely. Was it made for what it was doing in the field? Perfect. Do people make those wheels? Yes. My wheels need to be at 120 miles an hour. It's a different type of product, right? And so I've never come across anybody that really said, let's do this. You know how much time it took us to build the back end of this, the ASAP. Everyone wanted a big check up front. And you know what? I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at downline, and, you know, we'll get our fees covered at some point in history, or in the future. The industry needs help. Someone has to do it, so why not?
All right. 2 more questions, and then we're going to wrap this up for episode 1. And the future episodes, we're going to dive super deep into specific topics, so we can have a whole episode on SEO and why that is a thing and why data plays that part in that, right? Or fitment or category trees or whatever. But so wrapping this up, where do you see ASAP in 5 years?
I see ASAP in 5 years having the majority of industry-leading manufacturers, but also being able to provide these new and upcoming manufacturers a place, right, to be seen, breaking into this industry, getting the support they need. So I see us being able to handle, my goal is 30%, right? I want 30% of the manufacturers. I want the dealers to be able to come on. I have a lot of plans for the future of ASAP. I want the dealers to be able to use that as a resource for all kinds of stuff. Job boards, SEO, training, e-commerce, who's new in the zoo, who's got what going on. I just want it to be an industry resource for everybody.
All right. And then I really want to do a full podcast on you as a person, because I think a lot of people will be super interested in who you are, the mysterious woman in black. But so give me, and this will be the last question, someone that's out there going, why should I listen to you? You're talking a lot about a lot of things, and you come across very knowledgeable, but in a world of when you say gimmicks, right? And people boasting their egos or saying that, I can make you lose 10 pounds in one day, stand on your head and tickle your toes. Why are you, what you're saying, how do I know that that's true? How do I believe you? Give me some kind of credibility or background or credential that makes you viable.
First of all, I've been told by a lot of people in this industry a lot of things about my personality. And I guess either you like it and you like to be told the truth, or you like not to be. And I'm okay either way. It is what I am, right? So I'm not charging these guys for the information. What do I stand to gain by lying to them, right? I want them to be successful. I never tell them anything that I have not done in practice, right? When I say do this, this, and this is what will happen, it's not because I'm guessing. It's because I actually get clients that pay me to do it, and I know what I watch it happen, right? So it's not, I think if you did this, or maybe if you did that.
So your credentials is from experience, is from the websites that you've done this, or, I mean, going all the way back to the beginning of the podcast, the whole reason that ASAP started was that you picked up a aftermarket client and saw what was happening, and so then you tried to create these solutions just willy-nilly. That would be like your credentials, that you've actually kind of been on the front lines of this?
It's the only credentials I have. Yeah, I've done it. And so if I say, here's what's going to happen, it's because I made that mistake. Or when I say, here's what you should do, it's because I did it the other way at some point in time. Save yourself the time. Save yourself the effort. I'm a small businesswoman, Tyler. You know that. I don't have a problem spending money if it has a return on my investment. But so many gimmicks are out there, and so many promises are out there, and it's unfair because, unfortunately, a lot of people, even that call us, I want to build a website because I want to sell parts and I'm going to be rich. No, you're not. And that's a really hard thing to tell them. But 97% of all businesses online fail. You're going to go into this market not understanding a thing about e-commerce. That is, why don't you just go build a new car? Right? A lot of billions get sold in car manufacturing. Would you go, well, Ford did it, and I think I can do it, with no knowledge? But the internet gives people the opinion that anyone can be a superstar. And it's true, anyone can have a website. But if you don't, and maybe you don't know this because you don't see my phone calls all day because you're not in this location usually. I have told more than one person, don't waste your time buying a website. If you're working 5 jobs and you can put 1 hour a week into your business and think that's going to be successful, I don't want to take their money because they look at me and go, how come I'm not successful? Did you know?
Well, yeah, I always look at it and always have is that your expectation of a website is when you spend any amount of money. I spent $150 on my website. That all of a sudden it's going to get slammed down on the middle of Main Street with a tunnel through your shopping cart. Right? And it's not, and what really happens is you get slammed down in the middle of a desert with no roads to you, and you click on your little open sign. You know, and I mean, there's, if you visualize it that way, would you ever expect to have any business? There's just not. You would not have, your expectations of success, if I said, you've got a great brick and mortar facility, it's in Antarctica.
Right. You
would say, okay, well, I'm not going to succeed.
Right.
And so.
But that's why I do the videos. Here's the deal. And my clients, and you know who you are, I yell at them all the time. How's it going with that? I don't want to do it, Amanda. All right, not a problem. But how many more years are you going to sit on Facebook and pull people away from cat photos and their grandchildren? If they wanted to buy a bumper, they don't go on Facebook. You know that, right? They go on Google. So you do get business. And how many hours a day are you going to respond to the 17 emails this guy wants to ask you questions on before he buys that part? You do know you have the ability to do it. But, again, it's just weird. And I try hard. So when I give out this information, who said, oh, it was Bill. And he said, you're going to tell them, how many people are searching for what words? Shouldn't you sell that to them? No. Because I know human nature, and I want the 2% of those dealers out there that really want to do something about this. I want them to be so successful that the 98% that don't want to do anything but throw something up and hope money flies into their... That's a really crappy thing for me to say, but, man, life is... We're not all winners. We don't all get first place ribbons. well, he has a website and he's doing great. What's he doing? Obviously something you're not. But life isn't like that. You get out of life what you put into it. So you don't want to put into it after I tell you exactly what you need to put into it. Go do something else, right? And I'm sorry, but I'm really into people who really want to work hard to make something of their business. I really respect that a lot.
Well, fantastic. I think this was pretty good for episode 1, and I hope that you stuck around and listened. Honestly, you know, the thing is to not have this be a hour and a half commercial for ASAP, right? That's not the idea for this. The idea, and I think that Amanda has pretty much made this a business point since starting, is to provide answers and information genuinely without charging. Just let's chat about the solutions and kind of leave that up to you to make that decision. And so, you know, if you have other questions, if you want to have your ear chatted off for even longer by Amanda, shoot her a call, right? Do you have a specific phone number that they can call?
Yeah, 719-432-9415.
So find yourself a nice comfy chair if you want. She'll answer all of your questions. She'll probably yell at you a little bit, but nonetheless, I really feel that, and I've kind of had this as a mantra for the last year, is that when you bring in new information into your mindset, it's either going to do one of two things. It's either going to change your standpoint or it's going to strengthen your standpoint. That's all that new information can do. And I think that either one of those results is a fantastic thing. If you change your position because of new information, that's great. If that new information strengthens your position, that's also great. So if you disagree or don't, it doesn't matter, right? Get information and make the best educated decision from there. But yeah, guys, thank you so much.
Yeah,
we're gonna
thanks.
bring this out at least once a month, maybe more. So if you can, let us know what you thought about this, what questions or things you would like to dive into next time, find it on ASAP. We'll have this podcast also on SoundCloud and YouTube. So again, thank you so much. This is Aftermarket Online with Amanda and Tyler. Thank you so much.
Bye.